got to restart. I already forgot what I was going to say. Action. We got pillar 2 and 3 of the 9 pillars of fitness, speed and power. Dr. Wetmore, tell us why. Like, so mobility is pillar 1. We know that if your joints fail, we can't do cool shit. And then why is speed and power pillar 2 and 3? Why do we care so much?
So ultimately, when it comes to doing fun shit, especially out in the mountains, speed and power are two of the most important factors that limit what you can or can't do, or at minimum allow you to have fun while doing it, right?
Yep.
It's also one of the first qualities we lose as soon as we kind of step out of organized, competitive environments.
Yep.
So it makes sense to have those as, top 3 pillars when you're thinking about how we can improve both our longevity and our performance around the gym.
Totally. So use it or lose it is real. Most people understand how to train for cardio type stuff. You see that a lot. Most people know how to train for strength, hypertrophy, like that type of thing. Like whether or not people are doing a good job on their own is a whole nother thing we could talk about. But very few adults do you see, if you walk into just like any typical gym, you don't see people jumping, you don't see people sprinting, you don't see power production. And use it or lose it is real. So most Americans at least stop running and jumping sometime after college because we still get a little bit of it with intramurals, goofing off with the boys, whatever. So speed and power are the basis of all athleticism. Anything you do that is athletic requires speed, requires power. We can even put golf into there. Is it a sport? I don't know. Let's not talk about it. But it's all speed and power driven. It's speed of hip rotation, a little bit of spine rotation, a little bit of shoulder rotation, but mostly hips. So speed and power are super important, and it's one of the most overlooked things that we find when we're working with people.
And I think it's worth noting that of your fitness qualities, speed and power drop off the fastest when you stop training them. So in the neighborhood of 14 to 21 days, you will see a substantial drop off in speed first and then power following immediately afterwards.
Fascinating.
Whereas something like maximum strength or aerobic power might hang in there a little bit longer, upwards of 30 plus days.
Yep. That's dope. And then I read, I think Brad Schoenfeld put it out. I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me. But if we lose, as an American, on average, we lose strength starting in your 40s, and you can kind of predict the rate of decline over a population. Speed and power decline is 4 times the rate of strength decline. And if you take this even farther to now, you're 80 years old, you want to live on your own, you still want to ski a little bit, you still want to be able to hike, whatever. The biggest risk factor for you is going to be falling and breaking a hip, slipping on the ice, tripping off a curb, whatever. And the reason some older people that don't continue to train start to look so shaky, like when you watch them walk, you're like, oh shit, like grandma might fall over. We've all seen that. A lot of that is a drop in power, drop in fast twitch. So if you stumble and you're 20, it's no problem to get your foot out there real quick. If you're 80, you haven't moved quick in decades on average. So still training to move fast. When you trip, now your foot's out there. Now you didn't break your hip. Now you don't have increased mortality rate, morbidity rate, all that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So that's one of the reasons that I think it's really important. The other is if you don't maintain your body in a well-rounded fashion, you're going to get more decline of your body. So if we look at a very specific athlete, let's call cyclists out, like very linear, very straightforward, a little bit of aerobic power, but mostly just straight endurance based. Especially with the cyclists we see here and around Park City. You develop really good cardiovascular system, you develop really good musculature in that cycling zone, but you kind of lose a lot of your other physical qualities. And so your body is adapting to become very good at cycling, but it's not adapting to become a very good body. Those are 2 different things.
Correct.
So speed and power are necessary globally, like being able to jump, being able to throw something, being able to catch something. That's all speed and power driven. It's also important for just at the joint level. Like you need to be able to rotate your hip quickly. You need to be able to move your hand fast, like hand speed. All of that matters in your body functioning well for a long time, which is another factor that I think can be overlooked. Like, why do I need to do skater jumps? I'm a cyclist. You need to do them even more than a trail runner because you're getting nothing side to side, where a trail runner gets a little bit of side to side.
Yeah, and it's also true that there are kind of these competing qualities between endurance work interfering with doing things that are fast and bouncy.
Mm-hmm.
So we try, especially with our 100-year athlete programming, to take advantage of certain training windows where we're emphasizing qualities at one time and then letting those residuals hang in there as we emphasize other qualities, so that you develop this well-rounded body and all of those 9 pillars are getting hit throughout the year.
Yeah, totally. And if you're an Olympic caliber cyclist, we're going to train you very differently than we train a 100-year athlete, because our goal is different. With a professional cyclist or an Olympic level cyclist, all we care about is whatever your primary race is for this block, whether it's an Olympic block or an annual block, doesn't matter. I don't care really how healthy you are. I care how well you perform. For a 100-year athlete, we care how healthy you are, and then we focus on performance second. And that doesn't mean you will perform worse, especially if you're a recreational athlete, because if you feel bad, you're going to miss more training days. The best way a recreational athlete improves is consistency in training.
Correct.
And so if you're not maintaining your body to human well, which is what 100-year athlete is built off of, that's kind of like the center thought there, then you're going to have more missed training days because things are going to kind of fall apart. You're not going to be as balanced. You're not stacking the deck in your favor.
Correct.
And then I think it's worth talking about, what is the difference in speed, what is the difference in power, and why do we train them the same for a recreational athlete, but we train them differently for a professional athlete?
Yeah, so speed is fairly self-explanatory. Like if you're looking at equations, it's basically just distance over time, right? It's a velocity number. So think things that are light and moving fast. How fast can you run? How fast can you cycle? Along those lines, right? Power incorporates a load into the equation. So power is force times velocity, which means you can have high power either with something heavy moving relatively slow but a high level of force immediately, or something light moving very fast. So think like a medicine ball throw or something like that.
Correct.
So by training both speed and power together, you are able to kind of surf that curve where you can develop the ability to kind of apply force and speed all along the spectrum from heavy to light, slow to fast.
Yep. And for the recreational athlete to bring that down to as simple as we could explain it, is we need you to be able to move quickly and we need you to be able to stop quickly. That's really what we care about for a recreational athlete. Now, if we get into professional athletes, we can talk linemen in football and we can talk cyclist. For cyclists, we really only care how quickly, speed. How quickly can you crank those pedals? For a lineman, you need to be really fast, you need speed, and you need a lot of power because you got another 400-pound dude crashing into you. So that's not just speed, that's where speed kicks into power. So for that guy, it really matters. For me, it doesn't really matter at all. For you listening to this, it probably doesn't matter at all. And that's why we combine it just for simplicity, and overall, we're just training for qualities to keep your body moving fast.
Correct.
Is there anything else that we should touch on for speed and power? I guess if you're going to incorporate this on your own, you're not doing 100-year athlete, how often should you train power? And what's that look like? How many sets, how many reps, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I think the caveat to these recommendations is it depends on the equipment, like what kind of a load you have access to. But power can be trained, 3, maybe 4 times a week. And to an extent, it's trained every day, depending on what your lifestyle is. If you're out on a mountain bike, you technically are training power in different ways. But specifically in a gym, in a weight room, you can train power about 4 times a week. I would not do only power-based sessions more than that, because then you're kind of missing out on other qualities you want to touch in each block. Speed, depending on your experience level, might be slightly less. So 2 to 3 times a week on speed, just simply because if you're not used to having your muscles literally shorten at that velocity, then number 1, you'll probably be sore, and 2, technique will kind of fall apart if you're starting to build up fatigue throughout the week.
If you're going to start training speed, and you're an adult that hasn't sprinted for a while, if you're going to sprint, if you're running is what you're choosing, don't let it open up for 8 weeks. You'll pull a hamstring. I guarantee it. I've done it several times. And I thought I was ready. I wasn't ready. And it's super irritating because then your hamstring hurts and you're like, that was stupid. But the recommendation I give to people to keep it really simple, and this comes from a conversation Andy Galpin had, is pick 3 to 5 exercises that are fast or bouncy, do 3 to 5 reps and do 3 to 5 sets. You shouldn't get sweaty, you shouldn't get out of breath, and you shouldn't be super tired when you're done, because that's not what we're doing. So it's how violently, how explosively can you move with each movement, whether it's a medicine ball throw, some sort of jump, some sort of sprint, something on the bike. Air bikes are pretty good for it. Spin bikes are not as good, but there's other things you can do with that. So make sure you're training power. Speed and power can be combined. If you're doing a sprint day, call it speed and power. If you're doing a medicine ball, like throws, slams, catches kind of day, call it speed and power. For the recreational athlete, it's all the same. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. If you're a professional athlete, you probably have a coach. If you don't have a coach, what are you doing? You should. It'll help you a lot. And make sure you're training speed and power often. And the more endurance focused your sport is, your lifestyle is, the more important it is to do gym sessions that include speed and power.
Agreed, 100%.
Sick. Don't forget to train, boys and girls.